Welcome to The Experience, live with Russ and Scott. Join us every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Learn more about the Experience community at our website, local.theexperience.video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Experience is brought to you each week by these great sponsors. Jim Coolman Insurance. Since 2003, focusing on auto, home, and life insurance. Contact Jim and his team at 541-753-2500 or online at jimcoolman.com. Capital Mortgage Source. Your trusted mortgage professional is just a click away. Call 541-829-8042 or capitalmortgagesource.com. Albany Area Habitat for Humanity is partnered with families, volunteers, donors, businesses, and community organizations to create safe, affordable housing. Albany Area HFH.org. James Reed Agency, specializing in comprehensive coverage for nonprofits, ministries, small businesses, and personal lines of coverage across the Northwest. JamesReedAgency.com or call 503-588-8229. And now let's get on with the show. And that's it. That's the show right here. I am D. Scott, and Russ, as many of you know and are praying for, is recovering from brain surgery that he had. And he sent out a picture with the cut and the staples that they put in, and I gave up counting how many staples Russ has in his head. But thank you to all of you who are joining us today and are continuing to offer prayers and well wishes to our friend Russ Hedges. He's in recovery, and I'll just say he is fully Russ. I was just talking to Jeff Johnson, our guest today, right before we got started, and say, yeah, he is fully Russ. He is buoyant in his attitude. His family is there caring for him. His son was cooking ribeye steaks, and his daughter brought carrot cake that came from a friend at the church. So life is moving forward for Russ. We continue to pray for him. We definitely miss him here on the show, and look forward to his return soon. Thank you to Ever, who's in the background and making all these things happen for us. And thank you to Sri Mahabir for helping us run the Experience backstage that we do at 6:30 on Instagram only. And that's a lot of times we talk about video tips and things that go on. Sri is an expert in using video to promote yourself, promote your business, to get customers and to get your message out there. So I encourage you to join us at 6:30 Pacific time every Wednesday morning on Instagram only for the Experience backstage. Then on Mondays, we have the Experience Local Believers in Business, and Russ and I have been doing that for quite a while now. I think it was episode 115, something like that this week. So those keep going, and here we are in year 6 for the Experience live with Russ and Scott, and you can learn all about these on the website local.theexperience.video. And yeah, .video is a domain name. So local.theexperience.video, and you can see all the programs there, including the radio show that I have in Waco, Texas, called the Waco Experience, an American Story. And coming up is, of course, the 250th celebration of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And the July 4th holiday falls on a Saturday, the day my radio show airs. So I'm looking forward to that, and going to do a special episode departing from the usual interview style, and actually going to be talking about the Declaration of Independence. We're going to tell a story of 3 of the signers. In the very last line, it says in the Declaration that they pledged their fortunes, their lives, and their honor to each other. And we're going to talk about 3 of the 56 who signed, who, when they signed, it was treason to sign that document. We're going to talk about what their lives were like after they signed that document. One of them was specifically hunted down. He was actually of the 56. He was the only one who was specifically hunted down by the British because he signed the Declaration of Independence. But as we celebrate 250 years of freedom and independence, we're going to have a special episode, and I'm going to read the entire Declaration of Independence. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to do that. This is 10 minutes of the show, so that's going to be a good time. With that, I want to bring our guest onto the stage, and that is Jeff Johnson. Jeff, thank you for joining us here on the Experience Live with Russ and Scott.
Oh, Scott, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be visiting with you this morning.
Yeah. So it was funny. As we were backstage and getting ready to go, you had your printer in the back there, burning up all of your ink. And I was thinking about those days when we had dot matrix printers, and I could hear the
I
inkjet, but it's
remember
just
that.
this whisper. And I remember there was a company that actually made sound deadening cases that you would put over those old dot matrix printers because it was just zzz, 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 right?
Those were very loud. Yeah, I definitely remember those.
Well,
This one, though, I was telling you, I I I printed off a document. I knew that it was quite lengthy, but I didn't realize that it was PowerPoint slides. And so it ended
mm,
up being most of the slides were in black. So I was telling you I'm gonna have to go to the store today and buy some more ink for my printer because I just printed off 35 pages of black sheets.
well, all of the stockholders of Hewlett Packard, thank you for your
That's right.
contribution.
That's right.
Jeff, tell us what's going on in your world. What are you up to?
Uh, well, this is an interesting week for me. I'm married to my beautiful wife Danielle. We've got four adult children that are all out of the house and either married with grandkids or thinking about it, that sort of thing. But it's just Danielle and I here at home. And she took off this week to visit some friends of hers in the Nashville area, a little group of church ladies that she hangs out with. And it's a trip that they take every once in a while. And so I've got the week to myself, and I've had a fantastic time. It's been wonderful, but too much Haagen-Dazs ice cream and pasta. I need her to come. I wonder why I'm so puffy and a little bit stuffed up. So I miss my wife terribly. But it's a beautiful day here in Iowa, so I'm going to try to remedy that when I get off of our engagement here this morning. I think I'm going to go take myself out for a little run and see if that doesn't help a little bit. But yeah.
Well, there you go. There you go. We Russ and I love to talk about and promote having daily routines, right? Things that we do to start the day, to kind of get
Hmm.
launched into that day. And then when you're traveling or things like your wife is away, there's a disruption into that cycle.
Right. A little
Uh,
bit.
but let's talk about your business. Let's talk about the problem you solve and the people who benefit.
Okay, so a little bit of background on me. So I'm born and raised in a small town, Sheraton, Iowa, and the business that I'm the CEO of is a fourth generation. I'm fourth generation owner and operator of a steel company called Johnson Machine Works, about 100 employees, a couple 100,000 square foot facility. But it was started in 1907 by my great grandfather, David. And then it was kind of the original band. My great grandfather ran it, and then my grandfather ran it, and my dad ran it, and now it's redounded to me. Well, we're yet to see if there's going to be a fifth generation that wants to try their hand at it, but the business has been an absolute blessing. Steel fabrication work, so we do beams and columns for buildings, mostly in the Midwest. We've done it as far away as Arizona. We get into some bigger projects, so a lot of the roof steel at the Lucas Oil building in Indianapolis is Johnson Machine Works steel. It was kind of a big project for us. But then we do wastewater treatment equipment, augers and pumps and filters and that sort of thing that goes all over the world. And our other big claim to fame is we do work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So we make miter gates and tainer gates for water control structures or waterways. Miter gates, like you'd see down at the Panama Canal, we do that for navigational waterways in the United States. And the business is an absolute blessing. But that's my mainstay, and lot to tell you about that and the way that I manage that. But I also do Artisan Writers, which is a coaching platform So I'm intentional about coaching people. I feel like the Lord led me to pour out a little bit. And so I've started up a coaching platform. You can find that at artistsandwriters.com. And then the other passion project I have is a 501c3 Crossroads Apologetics. I'm a lifelong student and a big fan of studying Christian apologetics. So I've got a platform, crossroadsapologetics.org, where I do curated resources, books that I've read and who recommended them to me and why. Got blog posts there, a lot of resources. I'm constantly building little web pages that are apologetics related, like how do we know God exists and how can we trust the Bible, that sort of thing. And it's also home for a podcast that I do called The Courageous Crossroads, where I ask interviewees, what's the most courageous thing you've ever done? So those are kind of the three different areas that I'm involved in.
Oh, that's fabulous. There's a lot to break down. We'll have to bring you back for like 3 or 4 more shows because all of these. Multi-generation businesses
Yeah.
in today's world are very rare. It may go to a second generation. To go to a third generation is really unusual. And then also, and obviously, you're fourth generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have definitely a unique perspective on business, and then manufacturing, big stuff. I mean, I've seen those gates and locks. That's not those are that's a I'm just thinking the engineering that goes into it. I mean, we think of, what it takes to make a cell phone and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, but there's a lot that goes into casting big steel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we buy the raw products. So we would buy castings, we buy rolled shapes, we buy plate, we buy that sort of thing. And then from drawings that are supplied by the Army Corps of Engineers or some other engineering firm, we create our own drawings and then we fabricate to that specification and build those things. So you wouldn't consider us like a rolling mill that's actually
Mhm. Not a
smelting the
foundry,
iron
right?
ore and doing that, but we're a big heavy steel fabricator. And I appreciate you saying that it's impressive. I walk down in that shop and I see the welders and the fitters and the machinists and the project managers and the estimators and everybody walking around, and they should be signing autographs. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing what these people can do. So it's a blessing that we get to do this work.
Yeah, I remember I was in college and I was working with my father-in-law, who was a school teacher and did painting in the summer. And so we were painting at a job shop. And so this was really my first entry into manufacturing. So they had screw machines and injection molders and all kinds of stuff. And what I found probably the most interesting was that they made their own tools because they would have a special need, and DeWalt doesn't make what they needed, and so they would go and fabricate something. So they needed a screwdriver that was 5 feet 5 feet long to reach
Right.
something.
Right.
And I'm thinking that's part of your world too, that there's a lot of creativity that goes into what your folks do.
There's a tremendous amount of that, and we've kind of inherited that. Sometimes I like to think it's like attention deficit disorder because we're kind of scattered and running all over the place trying to build a machine to do this or to do that, or a fixture to elevate a piece of equipment so you can weld it in an appropriate position, that sort of thing. But you're right, there's a lot of ingenuity in that. I'm thinking about, there's one piece of equipment in particular that sits right in the middle of our shop, and it's a massive, massive piece of equipment that my grandfather bought decades and decades ago. And it's a 2,000-ton press. So it's massive, massive press that we've used to straighten out girders and big, heavy pieces of steel. Other folks like Firestone and Titan Tire and John Deere, people like that know that we have that around. So occasionally there'll be some big gears or something that have seized up, and they'll bring them down, and we're able to loosen those things up with this big 2,000-ton press. But when we first bought it, of course, I wasn't around when we purchased the piece of equipment, but the story goes it came in on a rail car, and the base of the unit sits about 25 feet down in the ground. So it's recessed down in the ground a little bit. When it came in on a rail car, we built a kind of a skid to go down to the place where we were going to put it to slide the piece of equipment off of the rail car down into position. And it came in three parts. And there's these giant bolts with nuts on each end that hold the three pieces together of this massive machine. And the story goes, we had tried to figure out how we were going to, my grandfather's trying to figure out how to tighten the nuts on the bolts. And there was no wrench that we had, that we, otherwise we'd have to make our own. Well, what he did is he built a raging fire underneath the machine, right underneath the bolt itself. So it was able to expand. And then we could tighten the nuts enough so that when it cooled, it sucked itself back together again, just absolutely tight. So the piece of equipment is not going anywhere, but there's ingenuity like that in all things that we do that continues to this day. And it amazes me.
This is just fascinating stories because so
Yeah.
many people that are watching this, either live or in replay, have never walked into a factory and kind of seen that type of work going on. So I'm glad. Thank you for giving us a little glimpse into that. And then
Yeah.
you were able you moved into the role. You're the CEO. You're overseeing the whole thing. You've got 100 employees. I remember I was interim general manager for an upholstered furniture company. We had 150 employees, and it was a typical factory. You had the offices in the front, and then the 170,000 square foot facility in the back. And I take people, I bring people on tours, show them some of our furniture, and I bring them up to this observation deck where you could look out and you could see the incoming, the processing, the outgoing, and all that stuff. Right. And tell them we had, there's 150 people out here on the floor, but that represents to me 150 families that I'm
Yeah.
responsible for.
Yeah.
And I don't take that lightly. So let's talk about overseeing 150 families that you are responsible
Well, that's an interesting perspective, and you know exactly what you're talking about with 150 folks there. Um, when you move from that aspirational, I'm going to turn this place into Pittsburgh, and it's going to be the greatest steel company which it is. It's the greatest steel company in the world, no doubt about it. But that all pounding your chest, and I'm going to create this big thing, and then you realize that you have a tremendous responsibility along with a wonderful opportunity. It resets your focus, and it's something that you don't learn in college. I don't think you can pick that out of a textbook. You have to feel that. So I was taught at an early age, as a fourth generation, um, I'm getting my job, not pulling any punches. I'm getting my job because I'm the current president's son. And so you either have to learn it real quick or get out of the way. And so um, I really tried hard to educate myself about all things about that business. I learned the basics, of course, in college, but then you really have to understand the nuances. And one of the most powerful things I think any leader can do, but certainly in my situation, was management by walking around, visiting with
for.
people,
Yes.
seeing how they're doing, how's their relationship with their spouse, how are their kids doing, what kind of needs do they have, what kind of worries do they have, all of that sort of thing. And it really it changes the way that you look at a business. And all of a sudden, instead of wanting to spike the ball and be on the front page of the Des Moines Register, as this great CEO, you're more interested in making sure that you're serving people well. And so it really does turn into a servant leadership position. I'm grateful for that.
It makes a difference. That was one of the things at Hewlett Packard we talked about and learned from Bill and Dave was management by wandering around. And
Oh, yeah.
and I brought that to the furniture company too, because our employees would all start at 7 a.m. and I was there on the floor greeting them when they came in
Hmm.
and walking around and looking at every station with the eye to first of all thank them for being there. Right. I mean, gratefulness does go
Right.
a long way,
Right.
and but also looking for things that needed attention. And so we were an upholstered furniture company, and I go over to our forklift, and the seat on that thing was shredded. The vinyl seat on those, right?
Right.
How they go. And I'm like, we're an upholstered furniture company. So I go talk to the lead for our cut and sew area and take them over to the forklift. And sure enough, by the end of the day, they had found some leather, crafted it, put new foam on it, and recovered the whole seat. It doesn't, it didn't, it wasn't a very big project, but I can tell you that the forklift driver just appreciated that someone cared.
Right. Right. That's exactly what it is. It's paying attention to people where they're at and putting yourself not comically in a servant leader position, or just to label something that way. Leadership is leadership. You got to make tough calls sometimes. But you can't fake empathy. Either you care or you don't. And a caring leader is the best leader. People that are managing spreadsheets and numbers and that sort of thing, employees as that, I don't think are serving very well. But when you really get to know, and the other part of that is that it's a blessing. I mean,
Mhm.
what are we doing here if we're not building relationships and getting to know each other and going shoulder to shoulder into battle every day together? Yeah.
Absolutely. I always ask myself the question is, would they follow me if they didn't have to? Right.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah. So this translates directly then into this next portion of the business I want to talk about, which is your coaching side of it,
Hmm.
because you're able to take direct experience. So you've had formal education, but you've had the trial by fire on the job, and I'm
Right.
sure you've gone through some stuff that you said, you know what, I would have done it differently. Or you're going like, man, I nailed it the first time. Now you're able to take that and translate it into the coaching side. Russ and I are very big on coaching. We believe that everyone should have a coach, and the
Hmm.
coaches should have coaches because we need that input. So let's get into how you got into this coaching and what it looks like.
Well, I have to back up a little bit and tell you a story about Johnson Machine Works, if that's okay.
Indeed,
Um,
please.
Let me see if I can tell it. I'm not sure how much time we have here this morning, but let me see if I
We're
can
good.
tell it quickly.
We're good.
But let me peel back the onion, okay, and jump into the deep end really quick and say, when I was in college at the University of Iowa, go Hawks, I found my bottom there as it pertained to drugs and alcohol. That's a part of my
Mm,
story, and it's a huge part of my story. So I'm grateful that I can say that I have a sobriety date of January 23rd, 1992. And when that happened, and I'm still very active in the recovery community. That's a part of my daily, weekly walk, and I talk to a lot of other men, and I have people that are coaching me in that regard as well. But what that did was that availed me to a God of my understanding. That really gave me the feeling of being saved from something, and it kind of opened my eyes. So when I ended up coming back to Johnson Machine Works, coming back to the steel company, I wasn't exactly sure if that was exactly where I was supposed to be. And the business was old. I mean, it had been around for a long time. And you can imagine, because of the management style of generations past, a lot of people, I don't mean this in a derogatory sense at all, but they were hired from the neck down. A lot of times it was command and control. I'll come out and I'll tell you what to do, and you just do that and you move on with it. And the business had just kind of atrophied. It had just kind of gotten old. So we were, instead of working 4 8 hour or 5 8 hour days, we were working 5 9 hour days, and we weren't quite getting as much done as we were getting done decades past. And that really
mm,
wasn't true. We were working 5 9 hour days and then a half a day on Saturday, and the business was just tired. And I tried everything that I could. I got my degree in mechanical engineering from the university, and so I'm intelligent, able to look up, uh, 5S, Kaizen, all of these different products, sent my executives to executive coaching themselves, sent people to strategic planning conferences, Stephen Covey conferences, all sorts of things. And nothing was working. Nothing
mm.
was turning this ship around. And again, there's a lot more to the story, but let me just tell you, after running the business for a year or two, I got to a point where we were either making just a few dollars off of a tremendous amount of hard work, or we were losing a little bit of money. And I thought to myself, I'm going to be the fourth generation. I'm going to be the one that shuts the doors. And it absolutely broke my heart. It devastated me. But because I had a relationship with God, and because I had learned a little bit, a mustard seed worth of about prayer, there was one night in particular where nothing was working. Nothing was working, and I was at my wit's end. And we've got, like I said, a couple 100,000 square foot facility. We've got two or three different satellite buildings and a main corporate office. And I waited until everybody went home of an evening. And I had a little jug of anointing oil that I use sometimes just to get on my hands and feel the presence of Jesus, that sort of thing, while I was trying to work my way through some difficulty day in and day out. And I took that little bit of anointing oil and I went out to the shop floor, and I'll never forget it. It's 65-foot tall ceilings, giant hoists. There's an old compressor that's winding down. There's fiberglass on the walls that are racketing in the wind. There's an old feral cat, that you can hear running around someplace, in the corner of the building. And I
Mhm.
got down on my knees in the middle of that plant, and I folded my hands and I said, Lord, I've done everything that I know to do, and nothing is working. And I said, if you want to turn this business back into the center of the earth, that's perfectly fine with me. It's yours. But I said, if it's me asking, would you breathe some life into it? Would you resurrect it and turn it into something new and something fresh? And then I got up and I walked around, and with that little oil on my hands, I started to pray for the guys' grinders. I prayed for the pieces of equipment. I prayed for the work that we were doing. Please, Lord, I hope the hole is in the right place. I hope these welds stick. I prayed for all of that stuff. And I just started to do that. And I just did the next right thing that God put in front of me to do from that day on. I remember we started a little Bible study in our conference room. One guy had a blue jean covered Bible. Another guy was a Missouri Synod Lutheran, whatever that was. Somebody else was a Baptist. Somebody wouldn't take communion with another guy because their pastor wasn't studied in the same thing. Anyway, it was just that kind of a thing. But we were pursuing the things of the Lord 30 minutes over the lunch hour. We
Mhm.
hired chaplains for the business to come in once or twice a week and just offer people an opportunity to be prayed for if they wanted to, or whatever they needed. Um, we did a whole bunch of really good block and tackling kind of things. We improved our wellness practices. Wellness is not for the people that need it, it's for the people that want it. So we would set the table with all sorts of wellness things that people could take advantage of if they wanted to. And we did it over a short period of time. And I'd like to think that I did something to really motivate and turn that business around, but it happened too quickly for that to be the case. I think it was 3 months after that when my CFO came up to my office with a monthly financial, and the decimal point was bumped over one. And his eyes were this big, and he said, Jeff, honestly, I don't know where it's coming from. And his whole job is to know where it's coming from as the CFO. He said, honestly, Jeff, I don't know where it's coming from other than the fact that we started that Bible study and hired those chaplains and whatever. And ever since then, my routine of a Tuesday evening is to go down with anointing oil, play worship music in the shop. I run it up on the hoist in the center bay, and I walk around and I pray for the equipment and the stuff that we're fabricating. And I just give it all back to the Lord day in and day out. And, that turned our business around. And that was 30 years ago. And I'm so grateful to say that we're very, very, very successful and have been for 30 years. And it's not because I'm the CEO of Johnson Machine Works. It's because the Lord is a better CEO than I'd ever be. He just lets me have a front row seat. Do you know what
I
I
love
mean?
it. I love it. I love it.
So
What
to
a
answer
beautiful
your
story.
question,
Yeah.
well, so anyway, to answer your question about coaching, the other thing that the Lord put on my heart was you got to give it away to keep it. So I purposefully got myself out of the way. So I'll be honest with you, I go down on Mondays and I check in with the CFO and management by walking around and talk to the president and talk to some other people down there. But it's a short visit, and I basically stay out of their hair and just see if there's anything that they need. And then Tuesday nights I go down and I pray over the plant, and that's how I operate as the CEO. I am the financially responsible person there, but I really have taken my hands off of a lot of that. and purposefully so. So to that end, had bandwidth to do some other things. So that's where I started the coaching. So my coaching centers on recovery from vices and that sort of thing. I have some expertise in that area. Family business, I have some expertise in that area. And the Christian apologetics, I know how to trust God and take my hands off of things appropriately so, and do the things that the Lord's asked me to do. And that's the realm that I coach in, if that makes any sense.
Oh, I love it. And so if people want to get a hold of you, because we'll wind down here, and we'll definitely, Jeff, bring you back, and we'll focus more on the coaching and the apologetics side of that.
Yeah.
So how do people get a hold of you? How do people reach you?
Well, you can email me at jeff.johnson@jmworks.com, jeff.johnson@jmworks.com. That's my email address. Love to hear from anybody, even if you have some prayer requests, something that I could be praying for you personally or for your business. I'd love to hear that stuff as well. Or if you're interested in a coaching engagement or you want to learn more about that, you just get a hold of me there. Or honestly, shoot me a text on my cell phone. 515-321-4308 is my cell phone number. And artistsandwriters.com, just spelled out just like that, artistsandwriters.com gets you to that coaching platform if you want to learn more about that.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, we'll bring you back and talk more about this. Jeff, it's fascinating talking with you this morning. Thank you for taking time. I'm going to put you in the green room, and then I'll grab you right before we go.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? It's just some amazing learnings that Jeff has had in his 30 years as CEO, and before that, able to translate that into coaching and apologetics that you can all participate in. So I encourage you, send them a text, get some information, learn what you can do to make those changes in your life, whether it's big or small, whether you have employees or it's just you. Reach out. And again, thank you to everybody who watches. We are live here on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Pacific time. And you can watch the replays. You can listen to it on the podcast. You can find it on all the platforms that humans listen to such things. Then you can find the experience. Continue to pray for our friend Russ Hedge as he's going through the healing. I was grateful that he's able to pop in for a moment. And again, thank you to all of our sponsors that make this show possible, to bring us great stories like Jeff every week. With that, I'm going to say thank you and have a fabulous day. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to The Experience live with Russ and Scott. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or subscribe on YouTube. See you next time.